Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. Boy! I'm excited to see what kind of cool items we might get on today's episode. Forget Me Now. True Galaxy Brain, pop Forget Me Now immediately. I don't like our spawn room. Mate PR, 3Z, QR. Stats, I would put them on the good side of average. You think that's a fair representation of where we're at right now? Excuse me, sir. With that damage early on. Speed's good. Rate of fire is above average, or at least, above Isaac, which is what we're going to use instead of average, because it's Isaac's world, dude. We're just living in it. Damage, it's up there. You know, could always be a little bit better, but it's still really good. Dude, early on in this game, you're lucky. A bomb is not worth 5 cents. 5 cents is like... You know, it's an impossible amount of money to some people early in this game. 5 cents could be anything. It could even be a bomb, for example. This is also an extremely great room for us. Pop this, pop this. You know the deal. We've started with Forget Me Now a few times now. Generally speaking... Oh my god, they were both luck upgrades. The way that I prefer to use Forget Me Now is to get another crack at our second floor deal with the devil, and I definitely think that this run is trending in that direction right now, because it's... What is up with these battery charges? That's just incredible. I need to get a spacebar item that can actually take advantage of them. I'm not complaining, by the way. The fact that the battery charges exist is just ridiculous. It's just an unusual amount of them to get early on. I'll try it. Could go to the shop. I think we'll just wait for one floor. What a strange room. I don't believe I have ever seen this permutation of this room. So it's really, you fight one gurgling in a very, very tiny room, and then the other one just sort of exists for target practice. We'll take HP. A little bit of a basic finish to this floor, but dude, we have so much momentum early on here. I've been saying dude a lot. It's a bad habit, you know. You pick up bad habits so easily when it comes to speech, you know. I think that's how YOLO became a thing. I believe there's like an irony curve. So, like, probably a rapper that nobody remembers the name of said YOLO. Actually, it was Kanye West. I doubt it very much, okay? Don't interrupt me. Me? Oh, Tomo. I shouted it. Now he wants to go. It wasn't at you, buddy. You're good. But if you want to go, you can go. Now that we got some privacy. You know, and then people started going, oh, YOLO's so stupid. And then later, it became an inside joke. Let's get those TPS reports done. YOLO. And then it just slipped, you know, you can't stop saying it. Once you... Speech is so unconscious a lot of the time. It just slips in there, and it's hard to break free from that sort of programming, you know? So I've been saying dude in text and in voice all the time. It's like my new You can extend it for any length of time. You could use it as a punctuation. You could use it as a pause for thought, like, dude... I don't know about that. You could use it as a... the punctuation is very easy, you know? You eat something that's really delicious, you go, dude. Dude! That's some kickin' brisket. Yeah, I say kickin'. I have never had a kickin' brisket in Vancouver, though. It's one of the things... It's a great city for food. A couple of things it just doesn't do well, in my opinion. Barbecue's one of them. The other one, consistently good Mexican food. Whenever I'm out of the city, I'm like, I gotta get me some of both of those. I have a strat. You may not like it, but it's mine. We're gonna get a 3rd level cube of meat. Pop into this room back here. Okay, Peeper's Eye, pretty terrible, to be honest with you. Now we have a 3rd level cube of meat. I think I might be coming down with something. Getting the vocal boogers, you know? Maybe I'm under-caffeinated. Yeah, that's probably it. Let's try this. Hey, that's fortuitous. We got 3rd level cube of meat, small damage upgrade. The idea is we still have 1 HP that we can use for our deal with the devil. So no matter what, if we like an item, we can take it and feel fairly safe. And then we're going to do this floor all over again anyway. Doorstop, and no thank you. Doorstop, baby, doorstop. You remember the Rolling Stones track from like 2002? Probably not. It didn't really make it into enduring legacy though. So that explains why perhaps that song is not as familiar to most people. You dug your nails across my back. Oh, your nails were sharp. Don't stop. I remember. It was everywhere, dude. If you were listening to K-Rock, you couldn't escape Don't Stop in the Summer of Love, baby, aka 2002. Why is it the Summer of Love? Because that's when Triple X came out. You know, the Vin Diesel movie. The Vin Diesel film. Cinema Vin Diesel Tay. Alright. Secret room. Do me a service. That is a disservice that you've done me right there. We should shoot all of the poops. We should shoot all of the poops. Because they could contain spirit hearts. Hey. Even if they don't, they could contain money, and money could buy us a spirit heart. This is like the polar opposite of the last run. You know, the last run we almost never talked about Isaac. This run, all I can talk about is Isaac, because things are getting a little funky here right off the bat. I am recording this video in the middle of E3. E3 is very strange for me. I think it's fair to say I have become somewhat truculent. I don't like the phrase cynical anymore. I think it has a lot of negative associations associated with cynicism. I'm not a cynical person, you know. I don't go out to eat and I bet the sandwich is gonna suck. No, I'm like, dude, I bet this sandwich. First off, I go, dude, this sandwich though. No, I go out and I expect the sandwich to own. And the same thing with video games to some extent. I don't really care about the announcements, but I'm always interested in how people feel about games when they come out. But it's very weird to, like, be recording Isaac episodes during the E3 conferences. And then you go on Twitter, and everybody's like, there's 17 new Battle Royales! And I'm like, sick? I can't tell. I was having this conversation with Corey the other day, who very graciously, by the way, and this isn't a sponsored stream, gave me a bottle cage to place on my bicycle, along with a water bottle, and then proceeded to smoke me when we went down to, I didn't mean to pop that. I meant to switch back, but anyway. Proceeded to smoke me on our bike ride. But anyway, I was telling him, I was like, don't mark my words. I actually think we're at Battle Royale fatigue. Some of you are going to say finally, and some of you are going to say no way, we haven't had the AAA Battle Royales. You're right. That's what I wouldn't say worried, but that's what I think is kind of interesting. I really think, at least for me, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, certainly a year ago, any game announces a Battle Royale mode, I'm like, I'm willing to give it a shot. I was basically a shill for Battle Royale. I just really liked, you know, we've lived with Team Deathmatch and like search and destroy style modes in shooters forever. It's been like the de facto mode in every video game since the dawn of time, right? The de facto multiplayer mode. So I think it's something new was really exciting. And they're like, oh, we're making it's an archery battle royale. You're like, sign me up. Oh, it's a magic battle royale. Sign me up. Sword and sorcery. Sign me up, okay? But now, you know, I played PUBG, Fortnite, H1Z1 King of the Kill, the Darwin Project, watched a little bit of Realm Royale, played the slightest amount of Radical Heights. Thank you for your sympathy. And I'm done. You know, unless someone comes out with one that's truly incredible or captures the zeitgeist in the same way that, you know, the other ones have. I think I'm pretty much done with, like, new battle royales. But I think that, you know, large companies, they're slow. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You know, they have a lot of resources to account for. They got a lot of staff. They got projects, you know, shareholders. Things take a while to put into motion. And if you want to pivot, that's even harder, right? So I'm thinking that this is the year when all these battle royales get announced. A year or two from now is where they start coming out. I think people are already at peak cynicism. We're already at like 2014 zombies level of cynicism. I think this is my personal opinion. The meme economy is a sell right now. I would not be buying. I'd be playing the option 100%. Because I think the novelty of the mode is starting to wear off for a lot of people, myself included. And I recognize, you know, there's great battle royales, and you could definitely make a better battle royale than has been made so far. Even though I think, you know, PUBG's got its own unique elements to it, and Fortnite, I still find Fortnite enjoyable. I'm just sort of like over the 100-man enter, 1-man leaves while dabbing sort of situation that is happening, you know? It's not trying to be edgy, it's just shifting preferences. Blood of the Martyr. Starting to really come up from a stat standpoint. Get out of here. But I digress. People often say, I think I'm having deja vu, like I had this exact conversation earlier. And I may have in an earlier Isaac episode. But I feel like, maybe it was on Roundtable. You know, people are waiting. Everybody who skipped PUBG and Fortnite for the most part are like, you know, I'm waiting for the AAA Battle Royale. And I'm like, it's... could happen. Don't get me wrong. Like Battlefield and Call of Duty are both doing it. Maybe one of them will win out and it'll be enormous. I don't think that's a necessarily, like, too risky of a position to take. But I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I've been there, done that. Bring out the sports games on the PC, please. What is up with this buddy in a box? Also, with many things happening at once here. We just got 2020. Very happy to see that. Wow, this buddy in a box is actually horrible. It's like it exists exclusively to kill enemies right next to us. But, like, not that we're aiming at. Like, enemies that are directly above or below us, really. But this game doesn't have 3 dimensions, really, so you know what I mean. And this video will probably come out, like, well, E3 is still ongoing. Or it has recently ended, so... it's weird, you know, I like E3, it's an exciting time of year, but... not really my scene anymore. I went to it once and it was cool, but then I'm like, eh... it's a nice, like, it's a privilege to go. Because really, you're playing all these games that people are super excited about, and you're like, oh, it's shallow and pedantic, you know? You can put on your snobby voice, and you can also be like, is that the guy who played Luke on Modern Family? Probably plays Luke on Modern Family. Anyway, the point is, we're gonna go check out the shop here. I gotcha. 1 second. Is this an important Skype message? No. Not at all. It's a discussion. I looked up mook in the dictionary. Oh my god. There's like 1,000 different meanings for this. A generic derogatory term. Many attempts have been made to define it, but it's used too widely to pin it down. Originally used to refer to an Italian-American male. Person of little social standing. An affectionate term for a regular guy. An incompetent person. I think I've accidentally muttered one of the most offensive words ever made. My apologies. To the Urban Dictionary, Illuminati, and academia out there. Intelligista, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, video games. E3, it's happening. Call me when E4 happens, dude. Like, I get it. It's been E3 for 100 years, but, like, get with the times. Let's do some E4 stuff. This is going to be tears down. Told you. It's just my way of outing audio-only listeners. Stop that. So I don't know if I've said this before, but the only thing that I can fall asleep to in this day and age is Netflix true crime documentaries. This is where you in the audience, you know, I say, hey, shout if you're with me, but not in the Good Charlotte Anthem sort of way. And people go, woo! For some reason, the only thing I can fall asleep to is, like, a series that starts with a grisly and bizarre murder at least 8 or 9 years in the past, and then ends, like, 9 episodes later with you knowing the banal minutia of how long it takes a 17-year-old kid to drive a 1998 Honda Civic from the school to Best Buy. You know, that's the kind of show that I'm into. But I keep falling asleep, because that's the whole purpose of it. I keep falling asleep in the middle of episode 1, and then I wake up at night because they'll do like a gunshot noise or something, and I wake up and I get all these spoilers. I was talking about it on stream today, and people came up with a variety of actually good suggestions for how to fix this, and I shot them all down because none of them felt appropriate. Let me explain to you. People were like, well, why don't you just disable autoplay? It's a good idea, except for the fact, I don't know if anybody else is like this. I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping. The reason I don't have trouble sleeping now is because I can make my own hours. And the thing about making your own hours is that what happens is you can be like, oh, I didn't fall asleep for like 3 hours. I was just lying in bed doing nothing. You know, you just... And by the way, if you don't have trouble sleeping, just keep your mouth shut, okay? You might think I'm being the rude one here, but everybody who's ever had, like, insomnia to any degree in their life always gets people that come out of the woodwork. Have you tried closing your eyes? Good one. No, I haven't tried closing my eyes. Have you tried a little self-pleasure before bed? Obviously, whether accidentally or not. You know, whether I was using it as an insomnia cure or otherwise. It's not the, well, I always do this and it knocks me out. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have well, I don't have problems sleeping and I think this is why. Just let them, you know, there's doctors and stuff. Psychiatrists, psychologists that deal with this. And also perhaps some formerly illicit narcotics that now are available over the counter in many parts of the world. But I digress. The reason I don't have trouble sleeping anymore, maybe like once every 2 or 3 months I have a pretty bad night where I get like 4 hours of sleep. But that's amazing. A lot of people get like 4 hours of sleep a night. Try to take care of yourselves. You know, go to sleep a little earlier if you can manage to make it happen. But I understand it's not always that easy. Now that I make my own hours, I have less trouble sleeping. Because if I don't fall asleep within an hour, instead of being like, oh, now I can only get 4 hours and 55 minutes and 71 seconds of sleep, which would be a very weird way to count seconds, but I digress. I just go, I can always start an hour later if I want to. And then, you know, the pressure's off to fall asleep, and then it's much easier to fall asleep. And then what inevitably ends up happening is I fall asleep faster than I would if I had to get up for something. And then when I wake up, I say, well, you could give yourself an extra hour of sleep. But most of the time, I just get up then and feel relatively okay. So that's why I sleep well now. But the reason, one of the reasons at least, that I think I sleep well is because I always put on, wow, that's unlikely. I always put on like a media property that I expect to last way longer than the amount of time it takes me to fall asleep. Like if I had put on, you know, my parents do this. When they go to bed, they put on like the TV timer that's like turn off in 45 minutes. I could never do that because it's almost the same sort of weird anxiety that is largely irrational. And what I mean by that is if I didn't fall asleep within 30 minutes, I would then start to think, oh, well, you know, I only have 15 minutes to fall asleep now before I need to reset the sleep timer so I can start it all over again. And then you're like, oh, there's a lot of pressure to fall asleep in a certain amount of time. And as soon as you put that kind of pressure on the situation, you're done. You know, you can't get past that point. Yeah, I'll take parasitoid tears. So I don't have a good strategy for avoiding sleeplessness. I'll level with you. All I have for you is sympathy, and you know that's all I can offer, and I think that's all you're gonna be happy to have it, because that's more than a lot of sleepless people get. I don't like anything in there. Let's go. So the reason I don't turn off autoplay is related to that. I want to put on like a 10-hour long series. That's why when I put on podcasts when I go to sleep, people recommend me podcasts, and I'm like, you don't understand. If the episodes are only 15 minutes long, even with audio play, you know, they've got ad reads and introductions. I really need to get into the story in order to let myself drift away, and I have to be operating under the assumption that I won't accidentally, because basically if I'm falling asleep and then they say, thanks for watching the episode, we'll see you next time. And I know this is a bit of meta right now, because you might be doing the same thing as we speak. If I come back in the middle of it and go, hey everybody, welcome back, I'm going to be perturbed. I'm going to wake up and be like, I should have put on Hardcore History Painfotainment, the episode I've listened to 100 times yet have never finished once. So that's why I don't just turn off autoplay. We're closing in on Guppy. We should keep both of these trinkets. We want extra flies for sure. We'll do this too. So I don't know what the other option is. People said, what if you fall asleep to a series that, you know, is not true crime? Dude, you got a very good point. Like, if I could fall asleep to an unspoilable series, that might be for the best. First off, I'm overstating the problem. For the most part, I don't really care if I wake up and know what the spoilers are. Just as long as I, you know, fell asleep in the first place, it's kind of a fair price to pay, in my opinion. But there's just something, and I'm not saying this to be weird, there's just something about the way that people talk in those series is the perfect thing to fall asleep to. For whatever reason, it doesn't give me grisly dreams that are made of you. Who am I to disagree? It's not soothing, but it does, like, it immerses you in the story, and I think your brain is like, well, is he or isn't he the killer? And then all of a sudden it's working, you know, it's got a background process running, and you just go to bed, you know? I know there's other people out there like me. I guarantee it 100%. I really feel for people with sleeping problems, man. For a lot of reasons. One of which is the most frustrating thing in the world because it's so stupid. Like, not being able to sleep makes no sense. It's a biological need. You need to sleep. You have to do it. And then your body is like, hey, you're tired. Go to sleep. So you get into bed. And then it just doesn't let you drift away. You know, you're just sitting there staring at the ceiling. Sometimes it's anxiety, you know, and you know why you can't sleep. You're like, oh, I'm preoccupied worrying about this. Sometimes you're just bored. It's just an incredible amount of boredom. You sit there and you stare, or you lay there and you stare at the ceiling and just go, I'm tired. I close my eyes for like an hour. Sleep didn't come. I'm not worried about anything. I just, like, can't sleep. This was not a good use of our time here. And it's even more annoying because it affects you for like a whole day. You know, if you're hungry, after you eat, you're good. For the most part. Assuming you aren't like malnourished or something. Missing like 2 hours of sleep could negatively affect like 16 hours of your next day. And then on top of that is the whole fact that sleep in the first place just seems like this absurd thing that nobody really knows what it does, but it's related to recovery and, you know, it just seems like such a waste. Even though obviously, like, biologically it's not, because almost every mammal species does it, I think, but anyway, I digress. Accidentally tried to put my deprecated biology degree to use there. So you really do, you sit in bed and you feel just like an idiot. You're like, sleep is stupid and I'm stupid for not being able to have it. And you ever tell anybody about it, they go, have you tried closing your eyes? And you're like, yeah, good one. Like, there's actually people out there who think they're good at sleeping. Just because they've never dealt with sleeplessness. And it's infuriating because they're right. No thank you, sir. I'm fine. It was bad enough that, like, even when I lived in Korea, I usually got off work around 10 p.m. and I had to be at the office at 2 p.m. So it's like an 8-hour workday for the most part. Some days longer, some days shorter, for sure. But like an average workday. You would think if you don't have to be up until 1:30 p.m., how could you ever get anxious about the fact that you might not get up in time? My schedule didn't even shift to being like up until 5 a.m., which it totally could have without it being unreasonable in that circumstance. But it gets to be 2 a.m. and you're like, okay, if I fall asleep now, I can get 10 hours of good sleep. You're still awake in most nights I slept fine, but about once every week, once every 2 weeks, you'd still be awake after being in bed for like an hour. And then you're like, oh, I could still get 9 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep. Oh no, 6 hours of sleep. That's like the bare minimum to feel pretty good the next day. 5 hours of sleep. Now you're getting like really nervous. And you start bargaining. You're like, okay, if I fall asleep now, I can still get 4 hours of sleep, which is like the minimum level to have it not qualify as a nap. 3 hours of sleep. And that's when you start to have the conversation with yourself where you're like, maybe I should just stay up. And I gotta tell you, there's a lot of people have different opinions about this. I feel it is always better to get at least a little bit of sleep. Like my personal metric, and thankfully this hasn't come up in a long time. If there's like an hour, if I have to be up at 6 a.m. and I'm still not asleep at 5, let's say 4:59, I'm still giving it a try. I'm going to give it like another 15 minutes, then I'll probably get up. Because at some point you're just like, I'm not going to sleep, I might as well be productive or something. And of course, as soon as you find yourself en route to the obligation that you had to be up for, that's when you're like, I'm really tired. It's frustrating, man. But there are some people who are like, man, if I can't get over like 3 hours of sleep, I don't even try. I've had those nights. I've done extensive A/B testing over the course of my life. I really think that it's worth getting an hour of sleep. It's not ideal, but I think you do, you feel better. I think, at least. I had an acquaintance once who was in the military. And they did this thing where they were in a field exercise for like 72 hours and they weren't supposed to sleep except in like these weird shifts, or maybe even they weren't allowed to sleep except in these weird shifts. And apparently the rule that they were told was as long as you can get 45 minutes of sleep or more, it's still more productive to get to sleep. Because you can fit in like a little bit of REM time or something like that. I don't know. I don't know the specifics, so that's just what I was told. I'm interested to hear what other people's experiences are. Sometimes it's just a lost cause, and you're better off just getting up, to at least get something done. Distract yourself. So yeah, if you're dealing with that out there, and maybe this episode's not really helping you, this is just my way of saying I feel you. I'm extremely thankful I'm not in that situation very often anymore. Could happen again, you never know. Now I'm the one, like I was always a night owl growing up. I have a very vivid memory. I was watching, it was like maybe 9th grade summer vacation. And this is before we had more than one TV in my family. No, I did not grow up in the 1940s. But before flat screen TVs were really popular. Well, before they existed, you had picture tubes, right? CRTs, basically. And they were expensive and heavy, and like a 19-inch one also required like 30 inches of depth behind it. So it took up a lot of space. It wasn't that common for like an 11-year-old to have a TV in their room. Now I've got, 3 monitors and a cell phone to begin with that I could just watch stuff on. But back then, it was like, okay, the family's gone to bed. I'm going to watch movies on the family TV. No, I do not want this. And it was like 4 a.m. I was watching some military movie that had Danny DeVito in it. One second, let's see. Military movie, Danny DeVito. It was called Renaissance Man. See, I told you I remembered it. Apparently it also has Mark Wahlberg in it and Stacey Dash. What a unique collection of names in 2018. Mark Wahlberg, Danny DeVito, and Stacey Dash. Anyway, after getting canned from his advertising job, down-and-out divorcee Bill Rago, Danny DeVito, gets a gig teaching English at a nearby army base. Incredible. Anyway, my dad came out of the bedroom and was like, you know, what the F are you doing? I don't know if he said F, but to swear at a 14-year-old when they're awake at 4 a.m. and possibly keeping you awake, I guess, is not that, I don't think that's an egregious breach of, you know, parental-child decorum. Let's put it that way. And I said, I'm watching a movie, and he said, go to bed. So I went to bed. But I was always the night owl, you know, I stayed up super late. Now, in my marriage, I'm the one who goes to bed early. And I think it's partly because I've been, you know, exercising more lately. I get really tired. It's probably also partly because our bed keeps breaking in the middle of the night, but we've sorted that out for the time being. It's like 1 a.m. rolls around, and I'm like, I can't even keep my eyes open. It feels weird to be the one who's like kind of early to bed, early to rise. It's not really early to bed, early to rise, because it's still later than the average person goes to bed. I saw, because I was looking up the average American bedtime so I could make a meme to make fun of Austin, because I'm a terrible friend. And said for Fitbit users, the average bedtime is like 11:59 p.m. and the average rise time is like 7:14 a.m. or something like that. I was like, you know, that seems pretty fair. I'm interested to know where you sit, though. I have not been up at 7:14 a.m. deliberately without having a flight on that day that was super early. Probably in like close to 10 years. You know, I'm actually pulling myself like, no, okay, what definitely, and it's crazy that I have to go back this far, and I'm aware, trust me. In Korea, one Saturday, our boss made us go to work at 9 a.m. on a Saturday because we were doing like a training seminar about how to, you know, deal with the kids in the school. And it was really, really stupid because it was my last month of the school anyway. My contract was running out. And I think we both mutually were like, we're not going to continue with this. Me because of YouTube stuff. YouTube, you've heard of it? And them because they're like, this guy's not that good of a teacher. So I was like, you really want me to go to this thing? And they're like, well, technically we can force you, so yeah, you're going. I'm like, okay. So then I probably woke up at like 7 a.m. there. Oh, hey, thank you, Sunbrosefs. Sunbrosefs, probably. I'm sorry, because you're probably watching the Dark Souls VOD and realizing my skills have regressed immensely. I apologize for that. I don't know where they went either. But apart from that, I can't think of the last time. Well, you know what? Actually, for the Hitman 2 event, I woke up at like 7:30. But again, I haven't woken up at 7:30 of my own volition in a long, long time. Now, is showing up for work on time of your own volition for the average Fitbit user? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I was just trying to make a point. I'm usually, in this day and age, I'm like a go to bed at 1:30 sort of guy. If I'm awake and doing anything at 2, that's extremely rare. And you might laugh, that makes me a grandparent in the YouTube universe and the Twitch universe. Where people are like, oh, it's 5 a.m., better stop streaming and grab some dinner. Kate, and I get up at like, you know, usually like 9 or 9:30 now. The wake up light really did allow me to make a big change in the way that I, you know, handle the mornings. I'm very thankful for it. Probably that combined with regular exercise. For now, at least. Until a single distraction or obligation prevents me from maintaining the routine of exercise for a couple of days, and then I go, well, I gotta put it off for a bit, and then you just never return. That's how it always goes. Kate's like a go to bed at 3, wake up at 11 sort of person. I'm interested to know where the average, like, YouTube viewer falls. In high school, I went to bed at 11 and I woke up at 6:15. Better or worse than that? Let me know. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. And, of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.